done. I finished this season of Abbott and Child. It was so satisfying. Oh my gosh. I have so much to say. Attention all faculty, students, and staff. It is time to pay attention because class is in session and you are tuned into Abbott After School, the unofficial, official Abbott Elementary show. What's poppin'? It's your girl Des. I don't know where to begin. First of all, the writing is 10 out of 10. This episode was perfect. Let's get into our homework. First of all, I love that Janine got to host the party, especially because she was away from Abbott for some time. And like I've been saying, this is the most that we have left the confines of the school ever. Like ever, ever, ever. I love that the last shot of this episode was in front of the school. Actually, we left the school so much this season. For us to do so on the last episode and be at Janine's house, I just find it so fitting. But then we can pull all of these various characters together. So we can get the school district there. We can get Gregory's ex date there. You get Jacob's ex there. You can pull in the teachers, Ava. You get all of these little moments. Janine's best friend. So I love that it was at her house. We get into her being this planner. And so she has all of these sections. And you just think about how her mind works. If you think about when she's at school, she thinks the same way, right? That there is a beginning, middle, and end to how the interaction should go and how the students should show up and what Ava should do. A lot of the time, you see that it doesn't go that way. And that's how we get our episode. And that's life. Life does not go how we think it should go most of the time. And we get to see Janine kind of understand that that can be a good thing. I thought the party was going great, but she was freaking out because it was not within the confines of how she set it up to be great. And that is a lesson for all of us. Life can take its twists and its turns. Things can go outside of what you think it should be. And yet that does not mean that you are off track or in a terrible space. And so I love that we got to see that with Janine this episode, but all the sections were wonderful. The note actually from Ava, it was to her future self, and it was talking about, you know, the things that she thought she was gonna be able to accomplish, speaking Mandarin and all of these things, was a check for me because, girl, it's June and we're halfway through the year, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be learning Spanish right now. It's some things that I'm supposed to be doing, right? I'm sure there's some things for you that you're supposed to be doing. And I think writing a letter to our future selves, I did that last year, going from the top of 2023 to the end. And I read my little note at the beginning of this year, and it was nice to see. But I think I could have drilled down on some things a bit more. It's kind of a challenge that I have for all of us. I'm doing extra credit a little early. Extra credit would be to write a letter to your future self. Who is the you that you're going to be speaking to in 6 months? What have they done? What have they accomplished? Where have they been? Who have they connected with? What challenge have they overcome? What challenge have they stepped up to that they normally be fearful of, right? Take that time. I'm going to do it today and write out some things for the us that we hope to be at the end of December. So I love that they showed that from Ava because, yeah, she started off this season in a very different space. And a lot of us start the top of the new year in a certain space, and then, babe, we ain't always in that space every day. Janine's dress, when they were at the school for the last day of school, ate down. I'm loving the fashion this year. With her fashion, we're seeing her show up in a totally different way, and I'm eating it up. I just love it, but it's still true to her, right? Like, she's not dressed like a completely different person, but we're even seeing less jokes from Ava and people talking about her fashion because that's not a thing, right? And I don't know if it's even a conscious thing that people are aware of outside of Jacob, but it's definitely something that has carried throughout this season, and I adore it. Her hair is even kind of the same, but it's not. If you go to the season 1 and look at her hair versus now, it is different. And so I'm just loving the natural character development that is taking place. Mr. Johnson is so funny, and I just love his character arc. When Gregory pulled up, babe, to the party at Janine's with the black t-shirt and that gold chain, it did something to me, okay? Something about a black man with a black shirt and a gold chain, I mean, it could just change your day. And that's what happened for me, all right? Gregory walked through that door and I was like, I know Janine was at attention when he walked in. It was a natural fit for Gregory. He's worn a chain before. It was tucked even, right? It wasn't too flashy, too big, but it was noticeable. And he's wearing a t-shirt. Like, Gregory wears t-shirts all the time. So it was, again, natural when we're going from being at school to being after hours, but we got to see a little something, and I just loved that. Being able to see how thoughtful Janine was, right, where she's taking into character everybody's like archetypes and where they fit, but then we also see how they are indeed a family of sorts and how they can break outside of the boxes, and that breaking isn't catastrophic, which is what she was anticipating. If something's gonna go wrong, so everybody needs to stay in their spaces, right? But people actually left the confines of where they were assigned in a natural way, and it was not catastrophic to the evening for themselves or for those around them. And that also is a lesson for us. When you leave the expected space, expectations that you put on yourself or expectations that you feel that you've adopted from society or from those around you, you actually are not always in harm's way. You're actually not at a risk of losing something all the time. There are things to be gained. There's knowledge to be acquired. There are new places to explore when we leave the confines of what we thought we're supposed to be or how we thought things were supposed to go. And I needed that reminder myself. Next, Mr. Johnson as a bouncer, 8. Love that. And it was just, again, so natural for him, especially because he's lived so many lives, right, and has so many jobs. So I love that that was just a natural thing for him. When Gregory talks about his goofballs at the party, he lit up. And I think that that is just so beautiful. Another lesson. We follow our passions, right? Even those that surprised us, because Mr. Eddie was not setting out a goal to connect with his students in this way. He was not setting out a goal to share his garden with people, right? That was his space. He wanted to tend to it his way. And yet, when we open ourselves up to follow our passions, to go for things, it unlocks something deep within us that allows us to be able to be a better us and to serve the people around us. And we see that with his goofballs. And I just think that there's so many places that they're going to be able to go with his character arc in that way, and as he connects with his students through that program. And the fact that he got the funding, right, means that they can take that different places because there'll be money to be spent there. So love that, and shout out to Mr. Eddie for even challenging himself in that way. He was sharing with Janine how brave she had been to go and challenge herself to do a new role. And even though she came back to Abbott, she dared to try. And that they were just sharing what they admire about each other, I was just sitting there like, it really warmed my heart to see. And it was kind of like we are seeing a report card or a progress report of how they have been throughout the year. Now let's get into the backstage a little bit. The lighting on them when they were sitting on her bed talking, I love. The party and overall the choreography of maneuvering through each character and how they were interacting at the party and the intersections of the party, I love. So shout out to the team for that. And then just, this was a natural way to end the year, right? We started off in the school, but then we're ending with this like teachers and faculty only off hours party, and it was just natural. So I just love how we were ending the year. It felt like I was included in this thing even though I did nothing. I have to quote Mr. Johnson because he said something that was a huge lesson for us as we're sharing lessons from this season. Things will go wrong whether you're doing what you want or not. Wow. Things will go wrong whether you're doing what you want or not. I think that's a huge lesson for us, that there are parameters that may be up and in place that can be overcome. You can figure out a way. There'll be people that are advocating for you that will help you navigate along the journey. The grant will come through. The opportunity will happen. But you have to go forward to even realize that that's a possibility. And so shout out to Mr. Johnson for that word of wisdom. And I really appreciate them dropping that, because at this stage in my life, and like we said, we at June, I can see that already from my life, is that there's some stuff that I have not been doing that I wish I was doing. And it's like, yeah, some stuff has gone wrong in the meantime. So I might as well do what I want to do. Just want to be your girl, Teacher Moses, playing as they were dancing. Perfect sound choice. Whoever was the musical director for that scene, 8. I loved that. That was beautiful. And just them seeing them look at each other, and then it kind of was like Ava looking at Gregory, And then him looking back at Janine, it was just this moment of like, no, we're making a clear line in the sand that we are moving forward here. And I just ate that up. And then of course, the kiss. He said, I fixed your light. Him coming back, right? And Janine deciding she was gonna go forward. There's just this moment of like finally having the courage to choose not only what you're going after, right? Not only going for your future and whatever, but choosing yourself, staying true to yourself, honoring your feelings, your decision, honoring your decision making, having trust in yourself that you're making a decision that is true to you. Unbeatable, 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 in a huge moment for these characters that is of course going to change their dynamic, but then the dynamic of everybody in the school in a way that we've never seen before. But I cannot wait to see how things go over the summer and how they will be when school is back in session. So Gregory and Janine, the era's finally here. It's been long awaited, and I wasn't even breathing when they were kissing. Okay, like I was literally like this and holding my breath as the moment was happening, because it just has been such a pent-up moment, and it happened right. And the fact that it happened off school grounds I also love, because it's showing the breadth of how rich they are as characters and how they are people outside of their roles. And while they had in the previous episode like this date on a field trip, which is also outside of the school, we have this moment here that's on Janine's terms. He chose to come to her crib, so it's on Gregory's terms, and they get to be their complete whole selves. And Abbott is a part of it. Like they had a chat about Abbott at the party, but they are Gregory and Janine at the party versus Miss Teeks and Mr. Eddie at the party, which I think is super important for their development. Love this episode, love this season. It was beautiful from start to finish, and I think a standout versus season 1 and season 2. You can definitely tell there's a different air and flair with the characters. This is an Emmy award-winning show, of course, and it is not letting up. All gas, no breaks on how they engage us as an audience and build out these characters. I feel like there's a respect for these characters, right? I feel like there's a respect for the school system in the show and for Philly and what they are trying to build, or what they are building with this network of film, that they are really approaching it in a way that's delicate, but is also full throttle and is funny, but also has some depth. Like there are just so many balances that are happening, and they are treating it so well. So star pupil of this episode, I don't even know who I would award this to. I'm going to give it to Gregory and Janine. They both have to share the trophy and the throne this episode, and it's because they honored themselves. And let me tell you, that is a hard thing to do, especially now they starting to get people in their business, right? You got folks who are commenting on how they go about it, who are reading between the lines and those type of things. And so I think even then, those times, it can be hard to lock in, because you're like, oh, well, people are gonna say. But the fact that they have removed every barrier and are going forward, love them, proud of them. I love Barb and Melissa's engagement this episode, and it was just so sweet and nice, and I just feel good inside. So yeah, I think this episode was perfect. Lighting team, choreography, the writing was superb. Everything was just perfect, and I have no predictions for next season. I think they're gonna come with some new engagement. We weren't expecting Janine to be at the school district. I think they're gonna give us something else that's fresh and funky to anticipate next season that we will not see coming. I actually saw that Janine had a strict, this is on her Actors on Actors episode, that she had a no social media policy for the writers' room. That they didn't want social to impact what they do, but they wanted to be in charge of the vehicle that takes us through the Abbott Elementary landscape. And so because of that, yeah, I have no predictions on what they're going to do. I think it's going to continue to be a great show that impacts us all and that has lessons and fun and laughter along the way. I think we're going to get some new characters, like how we had Manny and Olivia and such. I think we're going to continue to get that. And because Janine is in the school, but then Gregory's taking off with the goofballs, we're gonna see something that happens. And in their relationship, we're actually gonna see them navigate. And I think that's important because they know each other well, they respect each other well, but they are coworkers, so we're gonna have to deal with that, right? They have friends that care about them, but they have friends that are older, right? They have intergenerational friends. And so how is Barb and Melissa gonna impact when they're having a tiff or discussing things? Mr. Johnson. You have Ava, who kind of was crushing on Gregory, whether it was fake or real, little work husband situation. She's there. So there are different things that we could play up. And then Jacob, right? So we have this guy on guy, girl on girl scenarios. They know each other's exes. So there's like a lot that can come into play there, which I think we'll be able to explore and just see some like young 20-something engagement. Like honestly, we do not have that outside of like a Love Island or Love is Blind. Like, you know, we do not have TV right now that is focused on like people that you're actually rooting for to be together on TV. Like that's not a thing unless you're watching reality TV, which has its own set of challenges. So I'm excited to see that play out on TV and see some people who are young and not toxic explore a relationship, child, okay? Because we do not be getting that. And I can use some tips and some tricks. So that's the vibe. I hope that you have enjoyed Abbott After School. Everybody is officially dismissed for the summer. Let me know if there's something else that I should be watching that you think I'll be into. Let your girl know in the comments and we can talk about it right here. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.